Hello and welcome to this video about the importance of keeping enough weight in front of your foil. When I observe beginners, I often see that they successfully manage the Dockstart followed by 4 or 5 pumps. However, after those initial pumps, they are losing speed with the consequence that they cannot continue their ride. In this video, I will explain you why it is so important to keep your weight forward when pump foiling. Let us first have a quick look at the movement of the board when pump foiling. The board will follow a sinus-shaped curve. With the downward motion, we accelerate the board to increase the speed and with that to generate enough lift to lift up the rider together with his equipment. Before touching the surface, we level the board up again to conclude the circle. In this video, I will not give you a lesson in physics. However, I will use some physical laws to explain you and visualize why it's so important to keep your weight always in a forward position when pump foiling. I hope the physicists among you forgive me some simplifications I applied to explain it in a more simplified way. In the following sequence, we look at the forces acting on our system. The force induced by the pump foiler is indicated with the purple arrow pointing downwards. The lift generated by the front wing is indicated with the red arrow pointing upwards, and the downforce generated by the back wing is indicated by the grey arrow pointing downwards. To accelerate, the foiler turns the board down over the nose, and shortly before the board touches the water, the foiler inclines the board again in an upwards position. Now we reach the important phase. The force generated by the front wing is always perpendicular to the surface of the wing, respectively perpendicular to the water flow around the wing. Therefore, the lift force is not only acting in direction straight to the surface, but also slightly against the intended driving direction. So what does this now mean for us? As you may remember from your physics lessons at school, forces can also lead to torsional moments. This is the case when there is no force equal and opposite directly along its line of action. The magnitude of the torsional moment is directly proportional to the distance of the force from the point or axis. When we now apply this principle here, we see that all the forces result in a moment of a torque. The consequence is that when we do not have enough weight, respectively force in front, the resulting moment of the forces will kick you backwards from the board. In addition to that, when we sum up the forces, we see that the resulting force has a component pointing in opposite direction to the intended driving direction, which explains why we are losing speed in this phase of the movement. Now, this may sound very theoretical, but the good thing is you do not need a degree in physics to become a foiler. Just being aware of it allows you to act accordingly. The simplest way, and this is what this video is about, is by keeping your body always enough to the front, respectively have enough weight on your front foot. As you can see here, the more weight you bring to the front, also during the phase the board is in the upturn phase, the more torsional momentum by the force of the rider, which is acting against the torsional moment of the front wing, you can create. Most probably, some of you now ask the question, how much do you have to lean forward, respectively how much weight do you need on your front foot? For sure, this is dependent on the foiler's weight as well as the equipment. However, what you can take away as a rule of thumb is that you always have to keep your body slightly in front of the rotation axis of your setup, especially also during the phase when you change from the downward to the upward movement. I hope that in this video I could show you why it helps to have enough weight in front to avoid being kicked off backwards from your board and not to lose too much speed during the pumping circle. Anyway, the most important in pump foiling is to have fun and not let yourself being demotivated when it doesn't work out with the first attempts.